I'd like to kind of welcome you to our panel, and as we mentioned, it's on raising the vibration of love in the workplace. So that can be business, but also it could be any type of work. So don't feel this panel is for you if you work in the public sector or charity as well as business. One of the reasons why we think this is so important is that so many of us spend so much time at work. It's a big part of our day and our week, and we think it's really interesting and important to explore why love and kindness and compassion is so important. And actually there's also a very practical business reason for this too. So just in the same way that you'll have seen studies talking about diversity and leadership on businesses, and those businesses that have more diversity in their board and so on are more profitable, there are very clear academic studies also showing that businesses that have compassion and kindness are also more profitable.
And I've been looking at the role of business and its connection with society through something called the Blueprint for Better Business, which is how we met. I guess along the way you develop a whole series of connections with people, and so I was asked by the previous leader of the opposition to design a policy on what's now known as 0 hours contracts, and how the way in which people are treated could be changed. And I decided to leave the board of Morrison's, which is where I was, and to write a book. And the book was about the disconnection of business and society, the need for leaders to reconnect if we were going to create a world which we wanted to live in. So what I'm going to talk about is how we deeply connect with the world around us, and how that deep connection can help us to renew ourselves, the organisations we work with, and the world around us.
How do we raise the vibration of love in our workplaces? And it's a question I've lived with for 25 years plus. And when I first really got into this question, I decided to set up a network at the Institute of Directors called Love and Integrity in Business, and invite chief executives to come and talk about what they thought it meant to them. And so it's been a very long journey for me. And the last 5 years, I've worked much more on this journey in talking to many chairmen and directors and publishing around how do boards lead the business with purpose, values, and culture that are aligned.
My main work is as a leadership development consultant. So I work with exec teams and also mid-level leadership and even very junior leaders to help them learn and grow as people and as leaders. That's the heart of my work. Along the way, I've done all sorts of things, which is included in the last few years, also working with compassion in leadership, which was a very interesting journey for a while, and still part of my kind of inner dialogue and sometimes my outer dialogue around what good leadership looks like. And that's particularly working in health and social care and looking at how you cultivate cultures of consistent compassion. So how do we make sure we're consistently kind? Because actually there's a lot of forces that get in the way of that.
I think connection is pivotal because through connection we raise our consciousness of other people's lives, of other people's existences. And in raising that consciousness, we open ourselves up to develop our compassion for other people, and in doing that, develop our own humanity. Has anybody here heard the phrase, or know what the phrase a brony wawu? Does anybody know what a brony wawu means? Just checking. Okay. A brony wawu means literally the clothes of the dead white man. There are so many local charity shops now with so much stuff in them that they can't possibly sell those to us, to people anymore. So those items of clothing get bundled up and baled and sent off to places like Ghana. In buying those Abroni Wawu really very cheaply, that has closed all of the local clothing manufacturing in Ghana. There used to be over 50 factories making clothes, the local Kentu fashion, that are no longer open in Ghana. So as we now know, Ghanaians are heading north across the Sahara to the ports on the African Mediterranean to try to find passage, because there's no work, there's no economy, there's no life that they can lead in places like Ghana. And so that's how the world comes back round. But it isn't interesting, because one of the reasons why we can afford to buy clothes and throw them away in the way that we do today is because they're made in factories of cheap labour in Bangladesh or in other parts of the world, which enable us to buy clothes and throw them away. So everything is connected. We're all on a journey of exploration. So it's a journey where it's about to search for three things: a search for truth, a search for love, and a search for meaning. And it's very difficult to conduct those journeys on your own. How do we create, if you like, experimental or exploratory communities where we can search together for truth, for love, and for meaning? One of the ways in which we've been creating those communities is by bringing cities together. So we were in Manchester on Thursday, and we brought together the people from all different dimensions of that city to talk about what would make Manchester a healthy city. So lots and lots of different people. And you know, one of the interesting things that they say is that they'd never talked to each other before. They'd never spoken with each other before about these shared issues. So that process of connecting is a vital first step. But once you've connected people, they then go, oh, that's really interesting, I'd never thought of it like that. And then they go, well, you know, if we did that, we could create ideas. And out of the process on Thursday, we generated 1,000 ideas in one day. 1,000 ideas. Potential areas of innovation. It's like a whole innovation engine of possibility of what people in that community could do. And because it's been generated by the people, they feel that they want to commit to it. It's not imposed on them. It's not an idea from central government or from business.
Everyone has their own idea of what love looks like. And I did a neuro-linguistic programming course weekend once, and the guy was helping us see that if you want to have a loving relationship with someone, you need to understand how they feel loved. So if you can do for them what makes them feel loved. It's not okay, just because I love fresh coffee, to assume that dear Ivan has to drink my fresh coffee and feel loved because I'm giving him what I love. And if we don't listen to the people we employ, if we don't listen, or if we do listen to our customers, our clients and our people and all the people involved in our community in sustaining our business, then we can really serve them and keep our agreements with them. So I think every one of us has to be clear about what love and integrity means to us. As you probably gathered, I've been living in boardrooms most of my career, and my interest is how we lead from the boardroom. So I can give some examples from the boardroom and also what I see going on in business. And one chief executive, Paul Feeney, who I'm sure you know too, at Old Mutual Wealth, he talks about how he went out, they got clear about their purpose, and he went out around the company and he told everyone, we're going to be vertically integrated insurance company, and he went on to all this stuff. And one of his employees said, would you like to come with me, Paul? And he took him down to the basement and said, what do you see, Paul? Well, I see a lot of cars. Took him to the parking lot, obviously the rubbish, parking, buildings. Took him up to the top, said, now what do you see? Oh, I can see the harbour and the town. He said, well, when you talk about purpose as being vertically integrated stuff, doesn't mean a thing to me. I don't live on the top floor, I live in the car park. You need to talk about my life and what matters to me, otherwise it's not going to make any difference. So they went back, they changed the purpose of the business to helping people have prosperous lives. And he said, not only that, but my whole team then looked at what did that mean for our business. And they actually took off the market 90% of their products because they didn't fit the purpose. They realised that their products weren't fit for purpose. And we're seeing more organisations now evolve a much flatter way of organising, because it does enable much more equality, but you have to work much harder in terms of getting people connected and working together to get everyone to a similar shared understanding. So I wanted to give an example of a woman banker. She's one of the most senior women in the banking community. And what I love about her is that she has this ability to really listen to people. So she gets out there into the banks, into the branches, and really she listens deeply and engages with people. And then she reflects on that before she acts. So about 6 years ago, she and I were chatting and she said, "Oh, Una, it's really exciting. We're going to hire someone to lead on our corporate responsibility." So anyway, I said, "But you know, Jane, for me, in banking, it seems to me that I just heard a very senior banker talking about how much money they were investing in the local community." I said, "I don't think that's corporate social responsibility. I think it's about how you lend your money and who you lend it to and why." 6 months later, we meet up again. She says, "Well, Una, you know, I've taken that to heart, and I got my team together and I said, I don't want you telling me every time we meet how much money you're making. I want every time you lend money, and we have our team meetings, I want to know what value we've created through making that loan." She just got on and did it, you know. There are women and men like this in the business community who are doing their best to raise the vibration of love in what they're doing. None of us are paragons of virtue, but there are lots and lots of, I come across a lot of really, really good people in business who each in their own way is seeking to do this. And the chairman, I've spoken to a lot of chairmen about how do you know when you're leading a business that actually the values, the purpose are being lived all the way through the organisation.
One of the reasons why I'm so fascinated and passionate about leadership is because, as far as I can see, our leaders' choices have big impacts in the world. Right? If you're at the top of a hierarchy, if you've got a lot of people who follow what you say, either because of your positional power or because of your power in terms of charisma, so there's leadership and followership on the internet, in social media, all of these kind of things. This is part of what we're seeing, I think, with Trump's election and some of the dialogue since then about the responsibility of Facebook and Google to check the validity of articles that are being shared. There's a reality that leadership has, even if we forget all the dialogue about organisational leadership, leadership has become more distributed. If you look at world leadership, the people who influence people's choices day to day, that's become so much more distributed. In a way that is both amazing and terrible. Utopian ideas of what the internet and globalisation would bring. You know, the people kind of inventing it and leading the charge, it's going to change the world, we're all going to talk to each other more, we're going to have a wonderful sense of intergenerational, intercommunal, international collaboration, like all of these ideas. Wonderful, wonderful ideas. And there's a degree to which it feels like the concepts they were talking about were divorced from the fact that the tool enables that, but the tool doesn't guarantee it. Like the World Wide Web enables us to talk to people across the other side of the world. It enables us to have potentially much more connected communities, but it doesn't guarantee it. In my experience with being loving in business is that the places I have seen and continue to see, some of the biggest changes are in very small nuts and bolts things about the way people operate with each other. And that gives me hope, because that's where that individual can make a different choice. We're not dependent on the people in control of the system changing the system. A little, again, linking with something Elif was saying about the way that individuality is really important. Like, it can be terrible too, right? Because in a way the political shift that we're seeing is based on an upsurge of only being interested in what matters most to me, kind of looking after your own. A failure of collectivism, of the positive version of collectivism. But there's also real hope for me in in the individual, because if you can shift many individuals, if those many individuals can start to make their own choices rather than getting caught up in the collective messages, then there is a shift that can happen without the permission of anyone who's apparently running the system. So those individual shifts I've most seen through learning, through people learning different things. And that's one of the things that I find a little scary in business, is that we, at the same time as creating the most competitive businesses that we can, or the best operating organisations that we can in the public sector, we're also creating an educational elite. That if you're not in one of those high-performing organisations, you won't be getting a whole bunch of education that someone else will be getting education throughout their career. And even if they don't like it, even if they complain about having to go to another training session, they are sat in that room. And there will be nuggets that they take away and shifts that they make. So there's something for me that's really important about learning as a way of creating greater and more effective distributed leadership in society. And I get curious about how organisations can have a role in that. How corporate social responsibility could be something about how we go, hey, we've got a whole bunch of highly advanced learning resources based on massive research into adult education. What if we shared those rather than trying to keep all the competitive advantage just for running this business? What if we went, hey, what about putting some learning, making some learning offerings freely available to the community? I get curious about these kind of things.
So thank you all for your beautiful and insightful questions and your graciousness